Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And of course, the season is not that far away. It starts next Thursday, of course, with the Rams and the Bills, prime time Thursday night. Of course, this is the AFC South show, so we're going to talk about the AFC South. And of course, the team that won the division would be the Tennessee Titans at a 12-5 record. Of course, it didn't end the way they wanted with a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals at home. But of course, a new season breeds new things and new issues as well. Of course, AJ Brown is not here. He got traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. We have Julio Jones, that is, of course, got released, now playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, and a few other things going on. Here to discuss the Titans and the outlook on their season, I have Mr. Turron Davenport, who, of course, is going to know the ins and outs of the Tennessee Titans, of course. What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
Another day. Thank you again for coming on. And of course, a lot of different things. First thing, of course, you lose AJ Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry coming back off an injury. There's some that have doom and gloom about the Titans that don't think they're going to be that good this year, which, I find pretty interesting, and I think they're kind of exaggerating. What are your thoughts, kind of, or your feelings on them in terms of what have you seen so far in the development of, the chemistry and the talent during preseason?
Well, I think they've done a good job of developing some of their defensive players, especially Roger McCreary came in, and he's been a factor. He's a guy that will, if he's not starting, he's going to get plenty of reps. You have that. You look offensively, Chig Okonkwo and especially Kyle Phillips, those guys are going to be involved. Traylon Burks is still coming along. He had a solid game this past Saturday against the Cardinals, scored his first touchdown. He and Malik Willis connected. So I think they've done a good job bringing these guys along. Can't forget the rookie Nicholas Petit-Frere, who is actually the starter at right tackle now. So they're bringing the guys along, I think, just as well as most other draft classes. And at the end of the day, you still have other guys in Chance Campbell that could not be a starter, but be a contributor on special teams. We'll see how the roster continues to pan out. But Reggie Robertson is a guy that I feel at some point will have some type of contribution as well.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I've noticed is the rookie class has not been talked about as much, but they're going to factor into this team and how they do this year. Definitely. And one position you mentioned, of course, is the wide receiver room. Of course, you got Traylon Burks, who you mentioned. You got Robert Woods brought over from the Los Angeles Rams. You have Racey McMath, of course, Kyle Phillips, you mentioned, Nick Westbrook-Kenny. You're going to have a lot of different people in that room as opposed to what last year was there. What are kind of some of the expectations, or what are some of maybe the expectations you may have for this wide receiver room with just all the different people and the chemistry still being built?
Well, I think it's more of a committee type of thing. I don't know for sure that they'll have an absolute number one. This is a team that could have Robert Woods lead the team in receiving 1 week, Austin Hooper the next, and then Burks 3 catches for 100 yards, or Kyle Phillips with 9 catches for 96 yards. It's a group that I think is going to kind of take that Golden State Warriors approach. That's something I always like that Frank Reich used to mention back when he was the Eagles OC and I was covering that team, is he would say that he wants 5 guys that can score 20 as opposed to one who gets 40 every night. And I think that's kind of the approach that the Titans passing game is going to catch. And then with Dontrell Hilliard coming out of the backfield as well. So I don't think it's going to be a dominant guy that every week in and week out is the leader.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. And, of course, nationally, people are not necessarily grasping or understanding that. Another thing that they're not nationally kind of grasping on is the tight end position with the Titans being a lot better this year. Last year, of course, you had a litany of different gentlemen playing the position. This year, you have Chig Okonkwo and you have Austin Hooper playing the tight end position, which, give you a lot of versatility and a lot of ability at that position. Now, Chig will probably, to me, I think he'll eventually be the guy that makes the more impact. But Um, can you just kind of position and kind of the chemistry they have or building with Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah, well, it depends on what time frame you're saying when you say more impact, because Austin Hooper, without a doubt, in the year that he's going to be here, it's a 1 year deal, $6.5 million. I would imagine he wants to be back, but we'll see how that works out. While he's here, he's the guy that's going to have the impact, and he's someone that you see along with Robert Woods during special teams period and other down points. They're working on top of the route stuff and getting the timing together. You're seeing Tannehill go to Hooper an awful lot. You look at what Tannehill likes to do, work the middle of the field. That's where tight ends, that's where they get their bread and butter. That's when they earn their keep. And Hooper is a guy that, whether inline or flex, he's going to be able to get open. And because of his crafty route running, that's something that Tannehill said he likes a lot. So you'll see those guys connect an awful lot. And they're working on that chemistry. Is something that Hooper said he wanted to get going right from the start, from the first time we spoke to him. And they've done everything they can to get it right on the field and even talking in the classroom.
Yeah, speaking of definitely getting things right. Of course, there's a lot of different pieces that'll be there when it comes to the offensive line this season. Like you mentioned, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer will actually be the starting right tackle this year. He beat out Dylan Raditz for that position. You have, of course, you have Taylor Lewan on the left side. You have, of course, different guard combination there this year. Of course, with Roger Saffold being released and now playing for the Buffalo Bills. With all that's going on up front, how do you expect that to kind of affect the running game this year with Derrick Henry?
Well, it's going to be different because you don't have the people mover in Roger Saffold. Aaron Brewer is a different type of blocker. He's a guy that's more finesse and technique. So it's going to be cool watching how that works. I think the cutback lanes are still going to be there. In fact, just the last practice that Derrick Henry took part in, he was running to his left. It was inside zone, and he planted with that left foot and exploded up the field. And it was a cutback lane that was created by Aaron Brewer. So I think it's going to be fine. It may not be as big of a hole as it used to be just because of the difference up there, but Nate Davis is still the starting right guard. Ben Jones is still the center. So the change is just in Aaron Brewer. And I think it's going to be fine. And Derrick Henry has said that, they're able to get there, even though it's a new combination as far as him and that offensive line. They're able to get things in sync, and he's able to see what he needs to see through walkthroughs and those type of things. And don't forget, they did a lot of inside run periods where Henry was out there getting that bang, banging pads and those type of things.
And now, as far as Petit-Ferrer, he's a rookie, so of course people are going to target him. Do you expect him to kind of do a lot of chipping or, have a tight end lined up more to his side, kind of start the year perhaps? Or is it just they're just going to let him play and work from there and see what they need to adjust with?
I think they're going to let him play. Jeff Swaim is obviously a guy that helps out in the blocking scheme. It's going to be a combo of it. Like, I don't think they're going to primarily just let him rock out and just zero chip help. If there's situations where he needs help, right, is Azeez Ojulari, if he's going crazy in the first week, then they'll chip and they'll help out. But I don't think that that's going to be the consistent game plan one way or the other, because, when you have a guy stay and block, that takes him out of the pass combos. And that's something that they wanted to expand upon as far as the passing game was concerned. That's why they brought in Tim Kelly.
Got you. Now, I didn't talk about Malik Willis or Ryan Tannehill, and I did that purposely because so many people are talking about, Malik Willis, and some people are like thinking he should be further along, and some people thinking he should be the starter. But I just want to tell people, look, Malik Willis is not going to be the starter. He's developing, and he's done well, and he's grown, but he's not going to be the starter just yet. Ryan Tannehill is going to be the starter, and that's essentially what it is. And, whether you want to keep hanging on to last year's Cincinnati Bengals game or move forward, that's on you personally. But that's why, for those that are listening, that's why I didn't talk about Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis, because we already know what the deal is. I know Turron knows what the deal is. He's going to be the starter, Ryan Tannehill. Malik Willis, hopefully, down the line will be the guy, but it isn't his time just yet. I mean, if you have anything else to add, I mean, you can, Turron, but that's why I didn't really kind of discuss those two.
I don't know who thought Malik Willis was supposed to be further along at this point, but I think what he's done is fine. He's progressed each week. And the thing that's been interesting to me is they got a certain look in week one, the play action glance route that was supposed to be thrown to Des Fitzpatrick. He didn't throw it. Week two, first play of the game, play action glance route, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, he throws it. That's a progression. He also made an effort to stay in the pocket when it was clean. The Chigakampo touchdown was a good example. And then the third week, because just before that Ocampo touchdown, Traylon Burks was coming open across the middle, a little toss, Burks catches it and turns upfield. Guess what he did in week three? Similar concept. It was a different play, but still a similar concept in that you had a clear out, you had a route coming underneath, and it was Burks once again. Willis, this time under pressure with Myjai Sanders coming down on him, he changed the arm trajectory, got the throw out, and he made it happen there. And, oh, by the way, he had a 50-yard run. So you got to see the whole package of what Malik Willis brings, and I think it's going to be even better once he continues to develop. But at the same time, Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback. I think Willis will be the backup, and that's okay because it's not a microwave type of thing. I say allow that to just matriculate. He will eventually develop into a starting caliber quarterback. He's not the guy to be put out there right now because you have the veteran in Tannehill, and you're looking to back up that number one seed that you got last year.
Right, exactly. My thoughts exactly. And definitely, I have loved seeing the progressions and just the immediate growth. And Mike Vrabel talked about he doesn't make the same mistake over and over again. He continues to grow from it. I definitely loved, and I've watched it and seen it as well. But of course, we got to talk about the defense, and they return one of the best, I guess rushing in terms of rushing the passer. Kind of front sevens that you have across the NFL, in my opinion. You got Jeffrey Simmons up front, Autry in the middle. You have Landry and Bud Dupree, who is healthy this year, by the way. And you just have a litany of different weapons up front, and they can all get there with their front four. They can just get there by themselves without additional blitzes or things like that. As far as this front four, I mean, they were pretty effective last year, and that's kind of probably underselling it. But this year, do you see the same type of effectiveness, or do you see them kind of taking it to an even higher level?
I think they're going to take it to a higher level because Dupree is healthy. And as he got healthy down the stretch, that's when things really started to take off. And he's a guy that could get you 8 to 10 sacks. And, he hasn't had a double-digit sacks. He had one, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, he's a guy that could get you at least approach that double-digit sacks. Then you got Landry. Simmons, I think, is going to be even better this year. And the reason being is just in watching him, you could see that he's a more toned-up type of player now. He said he wanted to get to 305, 310 in that ballpark. And it was something that he wanted to do, so he was quicker, lighter on his feet. You combine that with the hands as well as the bull rush that he has, which he told me he had no intention of trading in for speed, so he maintained the strength. I think it's going to be better. But then even still, the addition of Rashad Weaver, and I say addition because he's going to be available for most of the year, that's going to help because he's a long pass rusher. Danico Autry is just a violent, strong-handed player that is very underrated. And then Ola Adeni is a guy that no one really talks about, but Mike Vrabel challenged him to find a role on the defense, and he found that role as a situational pass rusher. And he's made some impact plays. You look at week 2, was it, against Seattle? He had the sack of Russell Wilson. So that lets you know, they have a really good group in that front. And even at times, when they go with Tierre Tart, he's a guy that could get after the passer. He's more of a run guy, but he's someone else to get quick penetration.
Right. And, of course, we talked about the front, but we got to talk about the inside linebackers. Zach Cunningham, You've got what you got him actually getting a full season with the Tennessee Titans this year. You got David Long in there. I mean, not as much depth as you probably would like because Monty Rice is on the PUP list right now. But I mean, what do you think of a full year of those two guys together with the speed, the intelligence, and the striking ability that they have at linebacker, just as a inside linebacker combo for the?
Yeah, I mean, sideline to sideline, they cover a lot of ground. And these are guys, David Long, he's just fun watching, especially coming up and run fits. And even, when he has to go against one of those offensive linemen, the way he's able to just slip around them, it makes it really hard for them to block him. So I really like watching him play. He's one of my favorite players to watch. But then you look at those guys together, sideline to sideline, like I said, and just violent players. Cunningham, he's a very he arrives with bad intentions. I guess you could use that saying with him. And it's fun watching those guys together. And, the depth is damaged a little bit with Monty Rice on the PUP list. But Chance Campbell, Jack Gibbons, the guy they call Dr. Jack Gibbons, those guys are young players that could help out. And don't forget about Joe Jones, who, had the hustle play of the preseason, running down 4.38 speed Andy Isabella after a 74-yard gain. So they have some depth there, but Monty Rice coming back at some point will help.
All right. And of course, the biggest thing to talk about is the secondary. You've got Byard, who is the veteran, and you've got a bunch of more younger players around him. Some, of course, that have been here, some that are just arriving, and a lot of people that are versatile. Of course, you got an Elijah Bolden that's versatile. You got a Lonnie Johnson that's versatile as well, and Ugo Amadi, who just got traded from the Eagles, that's very versatile. So with all these different pieces, I mean, do you expect a lot of people in different places as well as kind of maybe different just looks from the Titans as the season goes on?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about safeties, yeah, let's add Amani Hooker to it because he's a guy that is entering his fourth season and he's made a name for himself. I think those two, Byard and Hooker, that's where it starts safety-wise. Theo Jackson is another player that will be in the mix. He's someone that played that star position at Tennessee. I would imagine they'll use him in a lot of dime packages to match up with tight ends as well. So it's a solid group. Amadi, I think he'll get some nickel opportunities as well. However, nickel-wise, Elijah Molden, that's more or less where he thrives. And even Roger McCreary, they used a lot of looks with him bumping inside and Farley lining up on one of the corner posts. So it is versatile. Even, Christian Fulton could bump inside if need be, but he's primarily going to be that right corner. I like what they have in the secondary. I like the depth that they have at both safety and cornerback. I think they're going to be fine as long as these guys continue to progress. And I think Roger McCreary is a huge add for them.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to what he can produce and along with the rest of the rookies. Now, of course, I do want to kind of go through the schedule. They do have the NFC East. They have the South. They do play, of course. And then, of course, they have the AFC West and Cincinnati, Green Bay, and Buffalo. Now, with those kind of teams they're playing, like for, of course, the AFC West, that's going to be a rough one, whoever you play. But with looking at the teams and the different, divisions, I've got them at 10-7 this year. They're going to win some games that people don't think they're going to win. They're going to lose some games, that they may not, people don't have them losing. It's kind of the way I've kind of looked at it over the time covering them or looking at them and just them being here since like 1999. It's kind of been that way with them. Would you think 10-7 would be a good barometer for them, or do you think I'm shooting too low in terms of a barometer for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think 10-7, 11-6, that's ballpark for them. I'm not necessarily going to go back to 1999 and allow that to influence because it's a totally different organization, different players. But I think if you look under Mike Vrabel, they've been able to win games. You look at the Rams game without Derrick Henry. You look at going into having the Patriots come here and beating them a few years ago. You look at going into Dallas on Monday night and beating them. But then you turn around and you look at the Houston Texans getting them to commit 5 turnovers and beating them at I almost said Lincoln Financial Field, at Nissan Stadium. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to win some games. They're going to lose some. The schedule's going to fall out. But I don't really get too caught up in the schedule itself either, because, I mean, you just play the teams that are lined up in front of you. A lot could change from one year to another.
That's true. That's true. And I got 5 quick questions for you, just real quick. Just kind of, I guess a barometer maybe for the season, perhaps. Over or under 10 touchdowns for Derrick Henry this year?
Oh, I'm going to over. He played 8 games and had 10 last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, Treylon Burks or Kyle Phillips, what rookie do you feel has the more impact for the team?
I'll probably go well, it depends on what type of impact. I'll go Burks because I think he's going to – that's tough. Yeah, I'll go Burks. I think he's going to get you a lot of yards after the catch. And he's going to have more yards. I say Phillips will have more receptions.
Right. Okay. Bud Dupree, kind of, you did mention that 8 to 10 sack range. I'm going to say 10 sacks. Or would you say I'm going too high or too low with that
one? I mean, I think that's right where you would expect. It's neither too high nor too low.
Okay. And Ryan Tannehill, I know he had some issues with turnovers. I'm not trying to keep bringing that up. I already know. But do you think he goes over or under 10 interceptions this year?
I'm going to go with under. I think he is more conservative with the football. I think having more guys that can work the middle of the field is going to help him. So I'll go under. And before last year, he had 7 interceptions and 6 interceptions. So right. I think he reverts back to that Tannehill.
Right. That's what I'm thinking as well. I'm not thinking he's going to just go out there and do But, okay. Robert Woods, last one. 1,000-yard season or 6 TDs? Which one is probably the more likely to happen for him?
I would say 6 TDs would be more likely. Both of those, that's pushing it. But, yeah, I would say 6 TD. I think they're going to move him around and use him in an assortment of ways. And in the red zone, he could be a factor. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, 6 TDs is probably more likely than 1,000 yards.
All right. Well, that wraps up the show for this week. Of course, we previewed the Tennessee Titans. I got them going about 10-7 this year. We'll see how that stacks up within the division. But thank you again, Turron, for coming on. You want to tell everybody anything you got going on, anything you're working on? The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, we got a Derrick Henry post coming up. I talked to a few players outside of the Titans. You can find out on ESPN.com every week, talking with TD. On iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you can find it there. And Whiteboard Wednesday will be coming back probably next week, next Wednesday, ahead of the Titans game. So that's another thing to stay tuned for.
All righty, and I always look forward to Whiteboard Wednesday, man. I always get educated. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for tuning in. You've been tuned in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.